What's up, you guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chidi Ashley, and if you watched my previous video, you know that I just built my dream house here in Bali, Indonesia. And of course, I want to sit down today and answer all of the questions that you have for me. And of course, I also want to share what the journey was like, because a lot of times we share the end results, but there's so much that goes into it. And this was a 2-year process of building a house in a completely foreign country. And so today we're going to dive into it. I'm going to answer questions from how much did it cost, to how to work with contractors, and so much more. So yeah, let's get into it. But before we do, make sure you comment, you like, you subscribe, join the family, guys. This channel is all about entrepreneurship. It's all about travel. It's all about life and business and so on, and how I'm juggling everything. And so stay tuned for that. Turn on that post notification. And yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into the video. All right, guys, so the very first question, and this was my most asked question on my video, was how much did I spend? How much did it cost to build this house? Of course, this is a 3-bedroom house with 3.5 bathrooms, a pool, a rooftop. I also purchased the land in front of the building as well to protect the view. So how much did everything cost? It all came out to $458,000. So that's how much it costs. Now, one thing that's important to note when you are building or investing here in Bali, Indonesia, is that you need to have that money up front. There is no such thing here as a mortgage or financing or borrowing money as a foreigner. So if you are a foreigner coming here, there are not a lot of options in terms of financing the home. So you will need to have that money readily available in cash to pay your contractors, to pay for the land, and to pay for everything else. And so that's something that I did at the start. I put that money aside, put that in a separate account, and then had that money readily available. And I want to tell you guys a little bit about how the payments work as well. So generally what will happen is you will pay for the land, and of course you'll have to pay for that at one time. And then in terms of the building process, that's a little bit more flexible. So what I did is I put down a deposit, and that the deposit will be around, let's say, 15 to 20% of the amount, and that helps the building process get started. So you put down your 20%, and then over time you make the remaining payments. So let's say I started my building process in January, I put my 20% down, and then let's say every single month I pay 10%, or every 2 months I pay 20%. So it's typically flexible, and you will work with your contractor to determine how the payments work. The most important thing to know is that by the end of that year, once your building is ready, you will have had to pay the entire amount. So that's how the payment works. If you have a contractor, you'll discuss and negotiate with them how they want to receive the payments. And one of my tips for you guys is make sure before you make any payment, you visit the house and you go through exactly everything that they've done. You inspect the work before you make your next installment, and this will save you a whole lot of headache and prevent you from losing too much money up front. And never pay the entire balance up front. I mean, this goes without saying. So you can break it down. So let's say, you know, the cost is 300,000, 400,000, you pay your 20%, and then you make your installment payments. And yeah, that's how it works. So that's how I did that. Another question I get is, did you have someone financing this project for you? And you know, it's so crazy. As a woman, sometimes you feel a little bit nervous to like post your accomplishments, especially as a Black woman as well. I feel like a lot of times people look for ways to discredit you, or to say, hey, she probably has a sugar daddy, or she probably has rich parents and this and that. And I'm just here to tell you that we can be educated, successful, and we have the agency to do things for ourselves. And that's what I did. I run a successful business. I was able to put my money aside. I don't got no kids, so you know, I do have a bit more of a disposable income, and so I completely self-financed this project. I did not borrow money from anyone. I did not have someone financing this project on my behalf. And yeah, that's just how it goes, and that's the gist of the matter. All right, let's go to the next question. All right, guys, so the next question that you guys have for me is, can you, as a foreigner, legally invest, build, or buy here in Bali, Indonesia? And the simple answer is yes. Yes, you can. There are different options available for investors looking to come and build, purchase, buy here in Bali. And quick one, you can either do a leasehold. And leasehold is very common. You probably know about it in your home country. This is when you secure a piece of land, let's say for 25 years or 30 years. And then there's also options available if you are a business owner. So if I own a business that's incorporated here in Bali, Indonesia, then there's options for me to own land or buy, invest for much longer periods of time as well. So again, you're gonna have to look into your options, and I'm gonna do a video in my next one where I talk with a real estate agent and a lawyer here in Bali, where we answer all of your questions as people who are looking to invest. So definitely stay tuned for that. If you're thinking about Bali, that will be a good video to watch. I also had a question about the land in front of my property, and some of you guys were asking about the 25 years that I mentioned, so I want to talk about that a little bit. So when I mentioned that I secured the land for 25 years. A lot of you guys thought that I was referring to the land that I built on as well. And actually, I was just referring to the land that I purchased right in front of my property. I secured that for 25 years to avoid anyone building right in front of me and to protect the view, because again, the views are incredible, and that for me is such an amazing feature of this home. And so I wanted to make sure that that was protected. And part of the agreement that we've worked out is that the locals here can still farm the land. They can still you know, harvest, and they have rice, and sometimes I get a few bags of rice. But you know, it's a great way for the locals to continue to utilize the land and also just to protect the view as well. Now with the actual land that I built on, that was secured for a much longer period of time. So if you, let's say for example, secure land for 30 years, you can actually extend for another 30 years and so on. So there are options to secure a piece of land for much longer periods of time. Obviously, it's much more expensive than if you were to do it for a shorter period of time because you're paying for the additional years. But yes, there are options available, and I hope that answered your question. Now let's get into the next one. All right, guys, so you guys asked, how much did I spend on furniture for this property? The quick answer is $46,000. And one thing to note about the property, as I mentioned in my previous video, 99% of the furniture that you see here, and also the fixtures like the kitchen cabinets and so on, are all custom built here in Bali and around Indonesia. And so of course the price is going to be a little bit higher when you're custom making all of your furniture. And what I did is I drew inspiration from Pinterest and things I saw online and all of the different properties that I've stayed in around the world. And so I was able to draw in that inspiration. I put together a little presentation, a PowerPoint, and I hired an interior designer, an interior design team here, a local team here in Indonesia called Jez Living. And I also had an interior decorator who I hired way down the line after I had already done all of the designs, and she was able to do some of the decor towards the end of the project. But all in all, what I did was I brought all my ideas together, and I really wanted to be involved in every single step of the design. And I really wanted to, I had like a vision in my head of how I saw this house, and I was not budging on that. And so I was able to give them exactly what I wanted, and they delivered. And I really would highly recommend the interior design team that I use, Jez Living. They custom made all of the furniture, and they helped me with the placement of all the furniture that I ordered, and they were just super professional and really great to work with, so I highly recommend them. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, guys, so the next question that you had for me was, why did I choose Bali? If you know me, you know I was born in Canada. I grew up in South Africa. I grew up in Nigeria. I lived in New York, where I went to NYU, and so I've been around the world. I traveled solo for a very long time, and I've been to so many different countries. So why the hell did I choose to build a house here in Bali? And the simple answer is, Bali to me is peace. You know, it's tranquility. It's a place where I can think. It's a place where I can breathe and I feel free. And I absolutely love this island. I love this country. And so it was a no-brainer for me that I wanted to do something here. And so I didn't really have any I wasn't hesitant to go into doing something here. I see myself being here long term, and I just feel at peace here. And that's why I chose to invest here in Bali. The locals here are incredible. I've never felt unsafe. I've never been made to feel uncomfortable or out of place. Indonesian people are amazing, you know, and so I really think that, especially, you know, as a woman, sometimes you travel to different places and you don't always feel like you fit in or you're in the right place. And I've never felt that here. And so that's why I decided to do something here. And so far, so good. Everything has been amazing, and I'm really excited. I mean, I plan to travel the world, you know, beyond Bali. You know, I might end up living somewhere else down the line. Who knows? But, you know, I really find this place as peace. And, you know, especially this property, I think that was a personification of that feeling. You know, when I step out and I see the rice fields and I'm rambling, it's such an amazing and incredible feeling. So, you know, that's why I chose to invest in Bali. And a lot of other people share the same sentiment. If you're a foreigner coming into Bali, you just need to make sure that you're doing things the right way. You're respecting the local culture. You are actually trying to know and learn about the traditions here, and you'll fit right in. And Balinese people have always been so welcoming towards me. So yeah. Next question. All right, so the next question that I got is, what do you do for a living? Now, I own two businesses, Chidi Ashley Travels, which is a travel agency, and we plan bucket list travel experiences for friends, for families, couples. We do corporate retreats, small destination weddings and elopements. And we also have group travel experiences for solo travelers looking to connect and enjoy a stress-free travel experience. So if that's you, definitely check out Chidi Ashley Travels. If you are looking for a curated bucket list experience, then check out Chidi Ashley Travels or www.chidiashleytravels.com. We also have a YouTube channel where you can watch our previous travel experiences, so go check that out. And I also own a software solution company called Readyhubb. Readyhubb is designed as a software service for freelancers, independent service providers, and small businesses who are service-based, and we help you to market your business and get discovered by new clients, as well as manage your business, from managing your calendar to your appointments, your client list, and so much more. So if you are a hairstylist, if you are a nail artist, if you're a personal trainer, if you are a therapist, or anything that provides a service and your clients book an appointment, then Readyhubb is designed as a solution for you. Definitely go check those out. And yeah, those are my businesses. If you are someone like me who has trouble with finding services in their area, then you definitely want to download the Readyhubb app or check out readyhubb.com. You can find freelancers and service providers in your area. You can check out the reviews, you can book an appointment, and keep track of all of your bookings in one place. So yes, I am an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner, and yeah, those are my two businesses. Next question. So I got a question, is it typical for buildings to take as long as yours did? Now, my building took 2 years for the entire process, from from the time when I secured the land to the time when I finished building, right? And so that was pretty long, and you have to have so much patience, and you really have to be here on the ground. Bali is not one of those places where you can decide to build, send money, and then show up a few months later and everything is ready. In terms of how long a building typically takes, it really depends. When I first secured the land, once I started the building process, COVID hit a few months after. And so that significantly delayed the entire building process. So typically it's a lot shorter. I would say that buildings usually anywhere from 7 months to 1 year for the entire process. Mine took 2 years. And of course we had several complications along the way as well, which affected the timeline. But typically it's a lot shorter than my experience, but it also depends on what you're building, right? And how technical everything is. So yeah, next question. All right, so I got a question, and this is a really good question, especially, you know, for someone like me. When I first started this process, I didn't really know anyone in the construction / building and property world here in Bali. And so you guys asked me, how did I go about creating a network here in Bali, Indonesia? How did I find my interior design team? How did I find my contractor, and so on? And really the answer is I did a lot of research. I was looking at in many different places. So I checked out the Facebook group, Canggu community. I checked there. I checked Instagram. I also had a lot of referrals from people as well. How I met my initial contractor was from my local friend here in Bali, Pancha. He referred me over to the first contractor that I had. And then how I met the second contractor that I used after Design Bali was via Instagram. I literally just searched hashtag Bali contractor. And I was just searching through the pictures. I saw his work. We had a meeting, and that's how things went from there. So I use a lot of different resources. It's good to have people or friends here in Bali that are in that world that can also refer you. But what I will say is that make sure you check the credentials of anyone that you work with. And this is something that I wish I knew before I started the building process. Is I really, really wish that I checked more of the credentials. Don't just trust people's referrals. And of course, when I started this journey, I was so young and I was really dumb. So, you know, I didn't do as much checks as I should have done. So if you are working with a contractor, an interior design team, whatever it is that involves large sums of money, make sure you check them out. Make sure you check if they have an office. You know, I would not recommend working with independent contractors, to be very honest with you. I know it is a bit more expensive to work with a larger team or a small, like a company, but it does pay off in terms of saving you a whole bunch of headaches. So make sure that you go and you check out previous properties they've done. I would even go as far as to speaking with people who have worked with that company before. Like, go ahead and go and check out those buildings. Go and ask the people that worked with them, how was your experience, and let them tell you, right? And that's the way that you're gonna save yourself a whole bunch of complications and headaches and stress. I even know people here in Bali that are building now that gave their contractor money, and the contractor completely ran away with the money, and they were completely asked out. And you know, something similar happened to me as well, where with my first contractor, you know, I gave him money for stuff, he used the money for something else. So this happens a lot in Bali, and it's not really talked about. And so when I went into this process, you know, I was thinking that everyone was here to help me and that it was going to be so easy and I could trust everyone. And what I quickly learned is that, you know, you really have to be careful about the people you work with. So yeah, that's my tip for you. I'm probably going to do a separate video where I really deep dive into all the lessons I've learned, because it's a lot. And if you're looking to build in Bali or beyond, outside of Bali, in your home country, there's so much that I learned from this journey that I would love to share with you guys. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments down below. And now we're going to move to the next question. All right, so am I renting or am I living in this property? I love this villa, and I am still going to be living here. I will be living here half of the year, so around 4 to 6 months a year, and then I'm also going to be renting the space out. So you can actually book this villa for your vacation in Bali. It's going to be available from 2022, and you can email hello@villaolori.com to book this luxury space. I'm young, guys, and so I still plan to travel the world. I'm working on my businesses. I don't need a huge house, so again, this villa is going to be available. I'm going to be traveling. I'm actually going to be in Dubai, and probably going to be based in Dubai a little bit next year, so I'm all over the place. And yeah. Next question. All right, so where did I order my furniture? I ordered a lot of the furniture from Jez Living. As I mentioned before, I custom ordered all of the furniture from them, but I also use a lot of other artisans here in Bali. I'm going to link them in the description box below so you can check some of them out. I also got custom orders from Java, Jepara, and other parts of Indonesia. So any of those contacts that I have, I will link them in the description box below. But yeah, most of the furniture, from the couches to the chairs and the beds, were all ordered from Jez Living, and then some of the smaller ones were ordered from smaller artisans around Indonesia. And for my dining table, I got that from DC Habitat here in Kerobokan, Bali. All right, so the other question I got is, how did I find the inspiration for the house, and how much input did I have in the design process? I had a lot of input in the design process. For me, this house is my baby, and not only the design process, the building process. It was a point where I was at this property every single day for many months, and I actually lived on the property while it was still a construction site for the last 2 months of us building. So I was here hands-on, living here with all the construction workers and all the craziness and all the banging throughout the day. I didn't have a fridge or a stove for 2 months, but it was all worth it, and it was really helpful for me to be on the ground, present. In terms of the design process as well, I was very, very hands-on. I created PowerPoint presentations of all the things I wanted, and you can actually see from my Pinterest to what we have now, a lot of the things where I was able to really get exactly what I was looking for. But of course, I made a lot of things that I found on Pinterest and online into my own. We jazzed it a little bit. We changed the colors, the textures, the fabrics to really make it my own. So I found inspiration all over. And also because I've traveled a lot, I've stayed at lots of different hotels and villas in Bali and all over the world. And so I drew inspiration, like for the pool, I drew inspiration from Greece. For the rooftop, I wanted to go with a little bit of a Moroccan theme. So you can see different influences around. And then of course, because I am from Africa, I am African, so I really wanted to tie in lots of different African art. The pool outside, we have cushions that are inspired by Ankara fabric. So you see that all around the world. This house is really a personification of me and my personality and bougie luxury living. So another question I got asked is, why did I fire my first contractor? Now, this is a whole situation, saga, and quite frankly, this really traumatized me working with my first contractor. It was a really, really tough situation. And essentially what happened is that I paid for the building. I thought the building was going to be ready at a specific time. I sent the money over, and essentially what happened is there were no workers. They didn't come. He pretty much, didn't deliver the building. And so it was a tough decision. I had to decide to find someone else. I lost a lot of money because I had to then hire a completely new contractor because my first contractor quite simply didn't finish his work. And I waited many, many months. I used to come to the site and I would see that, the work wasn't being done. There was no workers coming. I asked the workers what happened. A lot of them hadn't gotten paid. And so it just became a whole situation with lawyers involved and back and forth. And I had to make a decision that if I wanted to finish the project, I had to hire someone else. And I had to, again, pay a whole other person to finish the project. And so I lost a lot of money with that whole situation, and a lot of time as well. I mean, from the time period of February till about May, there was pretty much no work going on the site, and work was moving really, really slowly because my contractor that I had initially hadn't paid the workers and didn't have the money to finish the work because he had used that money that I paid him for something else. So this is a really, really big caution for anyone who's looking to build. Please make sure that you work with someone that's trustworthy, you check their credentials, and even beyond that, make sure that you don't pay people everything up front. You don't give people large sums of money. You know, you double check everything, even down to how much they're spending on materials, make sure they're paying their workers, and so on, so you don't end up in a crisis situation like I did. And then another thing that is crazy about working with people here in Bali is that they really do not, in the construction world, they don't listen to women. And that's something that I encountered throughout this process. Is I would ask for things, I would say things, I would say, get this done. I was the one paying all the bills, but no one was listening to me. And it was really, really difficult to work with people and tell people something and not be listened to. And so that was a challenge that I faced as well. And so I did eventually hire another contractor. He took on the work. We first started with small projects. I saw how well he did, and then he ended up finishing the entire project. And the company that I used to finish the project is called After Design Bali. I do recommend them as well. All right, next question. So one of the questions that I got asked, and this is a really good question, is what was the toughest part of this entire process? And while there are so many different layers of, you know, just how challenging this entire process was for me, you know, from starting the process, and then COVID hit 2 months into the building journey, you know, and we had to work through COVID, and then we had to completely stop building at a certain point because everything was getting so serious. So that was a challenge in and of itself. You know, another big challenge that I face, of course, is the cultural and language barrier, right? You know, I was building here in a completely different country. You know, I can speak Bahasa, but only a little bit. So, you know, of course, there is that challenge as well, is communicating what exactly your expectations and your standards are. And of course, in Indonesia, expectations are going to be different than, you know, what your standards might be at home, right? And so one of the ways that I got through this was by getting a surveyor or an independent person who can come in and really assess the building every month and look and see what are the potential problem areas, can point out when cheap materials are used and when there might be other issues that are arising. And so that way I can bring those issues to the construction crew. So that's something that I did, but it's really challenging to have a very, very, very high standard of building here sometimes because, you know, the standards are just different. And of course, if you hire someone and if you're paying a cheap price, let me tell you, you are going to get a cheap building, okay? So you really have to check how what quality of materials you're using. You really have to monitor everything. And I always recommend that you should always go for the best quality and most durable materials. Even if you have to spend a little bit more money up front, it's going to save you so much of a headache down the line. And really, you have to think about every single detail. And that was a challenge for me. I mean, who ever thinks about what kind of toilet they want, you know, what kind of tap you want, how you want your tiles to look, how things are going to last in 10 years, you know? These are all the things that I had to think about. And so that was definitely a challenge, is keeping track of so many different moving pieces. And to be honest, I didn't have a building manager or a project manager. So I literally project managed this entire building by myself. I was the one checking, are things being done on time? I was the one having to check the materials and the quantities and all these different stuff. So I literally, let me tell you, I am a certified construction connoisseur at this point, because I was literally here, you know, checking every single thing. And so I learned a lot during this process, and it's good for me to learn this at this stage of my life anyways. So that was some of the things that were challenging for me. Another thing was trust. I mean, finding people that you can trust is so tough. I mean, even from my interior decorator that I hired initially, who completely scammed me, essentially. She did part of the work, I gave her money, and she essentially ran away with the rest of my money, didn't deliver the rest of my furniture, and tripled the prices of a lot of things as well. So, you know, those were things that I ended up finding down the line, and that was really tough for me because, again, you work with some of these people, you spend so much time with them, and then situations like that occur. And one thing I just learned is that you really, really have to trust, you know, not the relationship that you might have with people, but rather trust the credentials. And so I'm gonna keep saying that throughout the video because it's a big lesson that I've learned is trust the credentials, don't trust the relationship that you think you might have with someone, because once money is involved, people's true colors really come out. And I was scammed on several different occasions, to be honest. You know, even my glass guy, you know, I hired someone to do the glass in the bathrooms, I paid the deposit, and then he just didn't show up. So many different instances in this journey. And, you know, at some point I'm just like, damn, like what's going on, you know? But I came out of it, and you know, the result is such a beautiful house, and I'm really grateful for all the lessons that I learned. But of course, I'm trying to I'm trying to get my money back. Okay, so why did I choose Canggu, Bali? I chose Canggu because for me, this is the place I'm most comfortable in. I love the community. There are lots of gyms. The food is great as well. And everything is just super accessible. So that's why I chose Canggu. But you can really, people look and invest in so many different parts of Bali. For me, Canggu is somewhere that, you know, even during the pandemic, Canggu was really thriving. Restaurants were open. You know, businesses were still doing well. And so for me, I think that Canggu is a really good place for potential investors who are looking to come into Bali. I love it. And there's just so much to do. There's amazing community. I have so many friends here. So that's why I chose to do Canggu. All right, so I got a question. Did I hire staff here in Bali, and how did I find the staff that I hired? Yes, I did hire staff here. I hired a security team. I also hired a full-time cleaning staff, and I hired a full-time chef. We also have a maintenance person who works here part-time, and we have a gardener who works part-time. And then lastly, I have a full-time villa manager who handles everything from making sure all the staff are okay and they're doing well. He also handles all of the bills, making sure everything is running smoothly. And yeah, so that's all of the staff that I had. I use Bali Staffing Solutions to hire my chef, and they're really great. They do complete vetting process, and they do like a trial period as well. And so they helped me to find the chef. And as for some of the other staff, I got through recommendations and also people who reached out to me, you know, on Instagram and some videos and stuff. So yeah, that's how I found my staff. Okay, so what does maintenance look like for a property? For me, what I do is I put aside a small amount of money each month to maintain the villa, and this goes into, you know, little imperfections and things that we need to fix, things that we might need to purchase. And it's really important. I mean, the journey doesn't end once you've built the property, right? You still have to maintain and upkeep the villa, and especially because Bali is so tropical, you know, things get damaged with rain and with other things. And so it's so important to maintain your property so that you don't end up having like stains or water damage and so on. So I put money aside each month, and that goes towards the maintenance. And then, you know, twice a year, what I will do is I'll do major upgrades or updates to the villa as well. Obviously that time hasn't come, but that's my plan for the future. All right, so someone asked me, what about security? Is Bali safe, and do I have security cameras here at my villa? Yes, Bali is very safe. Of course, you know, over the past few years, there has been a lot of issues, you know, with poverty here in Bali because, you know, the island has been shut down. A lot of people make money from tourism, and so that has caused people to not have money, you know, and that has also led to a spike in crimes in certain areas on the island. But in general, Bali is very safe. I've never felt unsafe or uncomfortable here. A lot of the villas I've stayed in the past, a lot of them didn't have security, and that was perfectly fine. So I don't find safety to be a big issue here. Of course, there are instances, and everyone should always take precautions where necessary. But in general, you'll find that it's safe. I do have 24-hour security for this villa. I also have security cameras as well. And one of the big reasons, of course, is the villa is on YouTube, you know, and so that's something. And then I'm also a woman, and I just have hypersensitivity to everything. So it's always good to take precautions as much as you can. And so that's what I did. All right, so I got a question and it says, what did you learn about yourself during this process? And this is a loaded one because one of the things I learned is patience. I'm someone who likes to get up and go, get things done. You know, I'm always working on a new project or working on something for my businesses. And so with this project specifically, I had to realize that I can't control everything. And I had to be okay with the fact that I can't control everything. And that was really challenging for me. But what I did learn is patience and trusting the process. And another thing I learned is to trust my gut. And that's something that will stick with me for anything else that I do in business and in life moving forward. Trust your gut. If you feel like you can't trust someone, trust your gut. If you feel like something looks off, you know, be outspoken. Sometimes as women as well, we tend to not want to like, seem bitchy or seem bossy, and of course be respectful to people, but let your voice be heard. If something doesn't look right, make sure that you speak up about it, make sure that you highlight it, and don't accept subpar work at all. That's something I didn't do in this project, right? We did the ceiling for the living room 3 different times until we got it right. And I love how the end result turned out. There were a lot of things that we redid because they weren't up to standard. Like the staircase, we had to redo that. The balcony, we had to redo that. So a lot of things, you know, even though it was an extra cost, you know, we had to do that because I wanted to make sure everything was up to the highest standards, and I let my voice be heard when I needed to. So you have to know how, of course, how to handle people, how to talk to people, of course, show respect at every point in time. But one thing I learned is to trust myself, trust my intuition, and be patient. So yeah, that's what I learned. All right, so this is gonna be the last question, and you guys wanna know what's next. You know, after working on such a big project, what's next for me? You know, of course, right now, I just launched Readyhubb, and so that's my main focus right now is launching the Readyhubb application, getting it out there, pushing it. I'm completely bootstrapping this business, and we have no outside funding. So this is something that I'm putting all of my time and effort and energy into building this company. In terms of investments, I am moving over and looking into other destinations as well. I will circle back to Bali in the future at some point. You know, I would love to do more investment properties here. But for right now, I'm probably looking outside of Bali. I'm actually heading to Dubai soon. I'm going to be looking at property there. I'm also considering investing in the UK, or considering investing somewhere in Europe, like in Europe, like Greece or Spain. So definitely, you know, it's on my list and on my vision board in the next year to be able to purchase or invest somewhere else. And so I'll be stacking up the coins and saving and recovering from, you know, this whole project. But yes, I'm planning to invest elsewhere very soon. And one of the reasons I want to do that is, of course, to diversify the risk and diversify my portfolio. I love Bali, but you know, it's also important to put my eggs in other different baskets. And so yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So you guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you for sticking with it. I know this turned out to be long, but I hope you learned something from the video. And you guys, thank you so much for the support on my previous video. It has been so amazing to see all of your comments, and so heartwarming that you guys have supported me so much. I really appreciate it. Make sure you follow my businesses, Readyhubb, and visit readyhubb.com or download the Readyhubb app. And make sure you visit Chidi Ashley Travels on YouTube. Check out our videos. Follow Chidi Ashley Travels on Instagram. And of course, plan a trip. Plan your next trip with Chidi Ashley Travels. We curate bucket list experiences for solo travelers, families, couples, and beyond. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.